Welcome to today's video on septic tank inspection. We're going to begin by discussing the basic function and components of on-site wastewater systems. And we're going to delve a little deeper into the measurement of the scum and sludge layers in a septic tank in order to evaluate the solids accumulation. And lastly, we'll talk about evaluation of the liquid levels in a septic tank. A conventional on-site septic system consists of a septic tank and a drain field. The septic tank separates solids from liquids. It separates solids that are in the form of settleable and floatable solids, and these remain in the tank. The liquid effluent, however, continues on to the drain field. In the drain field, effluent is transferred over a land area through perforated pipes, and natural treatment processes occur in the soil. Over time, you're going to have two types of solids accumulate in the tank. First of all, the floatable solids will accumulate as a scum layer at the top of the tank, and settleable solids will accumulate as a sludge layer at the bottom of the tank. You'll notice there's two baffles, one for the inlet piping from household plumbing, and one for the outlet piping that goes to the drain field. These prevent solids from interfering with the flows in and out of the tank, and also, most importantly, prevent solids from entering into the drain field. At some point, solids will accumulate to the point where the tank needs to be pumped. As a rule of thumb, when solids account for 30% or more of the tank volume, it means it's time to pump the tank. And one of the reasons for this is that we want to ensure that there's sufficient volume that allows the proper separation of solids and liquid effluent. Second reason is to ensure that the sludge and scum layers aren't so thick that solids are entering into the outlet piping. One important measurement is between the bottom of the scum layer and the entrance to the outlet piping. This distance should be at least 3 inches or more, which gives you a degree of safety for solids that might have the ability to enter into the outlet piping and enter the drain field. There are some basic safety tips you should observe before inspecting a septic tank. First of all is protecting yourself from infection and contamination by using gloves, eye protection, and perhaps even a face shield. Secondly, you want to be aware of the hazard of trips and falls, and it's a good idea to always keep the open risers in front of you. Third, it's a good idea to always inspect septics with a partner. And lastly, be aware of toxic gases, and especially resist the temptation to place your head near or even inside of the riser inspection ports because you want to get a better view of something, because this could expose you to toxic gases, which could be detrimental to your health. The first step in septic inspection is to locate the septic tank and the access risers and remove the lids. Now you have access to inspect the contents of the septic. Next, we're going to talk about creating a scum stick measurement tool from PVC pipe. You can use 3/4 inch or 1 inch PVC pipe. You'll need a 6-foot length normally of pipe, unless the septic is buried very deep for some reason. A 6-foot length is normally adequate. An elbow, a 6-inch length of pipe to give you an L shape, and finally an end cap to prevent liquids from entering. Then you have an L-shaped septic measurement tool that you can use to measure the scum layer. The first measurement we're going to take with our scum stick is where the top of the scum layer is. So we lower our scum stick through the access riser down till it touches the top of the scum layer, and we make a little mark where the scum stick and the top of the riser intersect. Make a little mark with the marker. Secondly, we're going to measure where the bottom of the scum layer is. So we push our scum stick through that scum layer. There'll be a little resistance. We might have to go through the scum layer and then back up to find the bottom. But once you find the bottom, you'll make a second mark. And the distance between that first mark you made and this second mark will give you the thickness of the scum layer. The last measurement you'll make with the scum stick is to find the bottom of that riser, or in other words, the outlet or inlet of the piping. So you'll lower your scum stick down and pull it gently up against that riser, and then make a third mark. And this will help you to get the distance between the scum layer and the inlet or outlet piping. And that's that degree of safety we had talked about, that you want to be at least 3 inches or more. Now when we pull our scum stick out, we can look at the measurements, the distance between the marks we made for the top of the scum layer and the bottom of the scum layer. That gives us the thickness of our scum layer. And the marks we made for the bottom of the inlet pipe and the bottom of the scum layer again, that gives us the distance between the scum layer and the inlet or outlet piping. That gives us that degree of safety. Next, we'll measure the thickness of the sludge layer using a sludge judge. A sludge judge is basically a clear plastic tube that has a check valve at the bottom. You push the sludge judge down to the bottom of the pipe where it goes through the sludge layer at the bottom, and then as you pull the sludge judge up, the check valve is designed so that it closes when it's pulled upward. And then it traps the profile of the sludge layer, and then you can measure the thickness of the sludge. And here we are pushing that sludge judge through that bottom sludge layer, and then when we pull it up, we'll have a measurement that we can take. In this slide, we have a sludge judge that has captured a sludge layer, and if we measure from the bottom of the sludge judge where it would have met the bottom of the septic tank to the top of where we can see the sludge layer, we can see it has a dark, thick brown portion of solids that are in our sludge judge. We can actually get a measurement of the thickness of the sludge layer. In this case, we have about 10.5 inches of sludge. Normally there will also be markings on the outside of most sludge judges, and you probably won't need a ruler, but this gives us a good example of how the sludge thickness is measured. We're going to use the scum thickness and the sludge layer thickness to calculate the percent solids in our tank. Remember, when the solids take up 30% or more of the septic tank volume, it means it's time for us to pump the tank. Also, we may be able to estimate the rate of solids accumulation, and we're going to do an example with a septic tank that had the measurements like the one represented on your screen now, where we have a scum layer that's 4 inches thick and a sludge layer that is 8 inches thick. And keep in mind that this tank has been in operation for 3 years. So we're going to use all that data in an example to do some calculations now. So here's our example. The scum layer is 4 inches thick and the sludge layer is 8 inches deep. And we're going to look at that information in light of a tank that is 48 inches deep with septic waste. And consider also that the tank has been in operation for 3 years. So to do the calculation, first of all, we're going to add our solids levels together. 4 inches of scum plus 8 inches of sludge equals 12 inches total of solids. Then we're going to divide that by the total depth, 12 inches divided by 48 inches, because that's the operational depth of our tank. And then convert it to a percent by timesing by 100, and we find that the solids in this tank are occupying 25% of the tank volume. Because that's less than 30%, it means we don't need to necessarily pump this tank this year. Also, we can give ourselves a rough estimate of how quickly solids have been accumulating. If we take our 12 inches of accumulation divided by the 3 years of the tank operation, 12 divided by 3 equals 4, or 4 inches per year of solids have been accumulating. And we can use that information to predict future pumping events or the frequency of pumping over time for this tank. Now finally, let's talk about the liquid levels in a tank. In a septic tank, the liquid level should be even with the bottom of the outlet piping. That means that all of the liquid in the tank is able to easily flow out to the drain field. There's no restrictions. If, however, the liquid level is above the bottom of that outlet piping, it could mean that we have some type of restriction, and that could be because the drain field has become saturated with water, it can't hold anymore, or it could mean that we have some clogging occurring, clogging in the perforated pipes or clogging in the soil where the treatment is occurring. Lastly, if the liquid level in the septic tank is below the bottom of the outlet pipe, it can mean that the tank is leaking. In other words, water is leaving by some other means besides flowing into the drain field. Leaking septic tanks are a major concern with groundwater pollution. Let's briefly summarize what we went over today. First of all, we discussed the purpose and basic procedures for inspecting a septic tank. We discussed how we can measure the scum layer using a septic measurement tool called a Scum stick. We talked about measuring the sludge layer using a sludge judge. And we used this information to perform a calculation that told us what the percent solids were for our tank. And we also estimated the solids accumulation per year. We discussed some basic safety recommendations, and lastly, we discussed how we can evaluate liquid levels in tanks. There's a lot more to learn about septic tank inspection and about on-site wastewater treatment in general, so I'd like to leave you with a couple of additional resources. First is the Environmental Finance Center Network webpage, which is efcnetwork.org. There you'll find a variety of learning resources and webinars and training events that you can attend. The second is the US EPA webpage on septic systems, which is dedicated to septic systems and decentralized on-site wastewater treatment systems of all types. And you can visit that webpage by going to epa.gov/septic. And finally, if you'd like to visit us here at the Great Lakes Environmental Infrastructure Center, you can do so by going to gleic.org. I want to thank you for taking the time to attend this video today and for caring enough to continue your learning journey and to protect the environment and improve your community by becoming more proficient at septic inspection. I'd like to also encourage you to leave a comment in the comment section about what you might have learned today that you found valuable, or additional questions or materials that you'd like to see in the future. Please leave a comment and let us know what you'd like to see in the future. And once again, thank you for attending today.